Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 4. We'll present our presentation with Dita from Tripartite Division to University of Humanism, Alternative Islamic Global International Relation. Our group member are Arindra Putri, Muhammad Abiel, and Sheila. The point of presentation, the first one is introduction, the second one is about classical paradigm, the third one is about modern paradigm, and then the fourth one is about Abu Zahra, and then the last part is about conclusion. The first part is about introduction. There is a long history of Islam to be recognized as one of the prominent religions in the area. From its emergence until the community can let out and interpreted the Quran as a Muslim people way of life, as of its monotheistic message, Islam arrived in Arabia in 610 CE, evoked hostility toward the Prophet Muhammad, and believers in the new religion posing a major threat to Arab political and economic power and prestige. Due to increasing persuasion and hostility, Muslims were forced to flee their hometown of Mecca in 622 CE and found refuge in Medina, where they established a state, and thus the concept of the Muslim Ummah or nation began to develop. However, this does not mean that hostility have ended. On the other hand, a series of fight and small war have occurred between the new Muslim Ummah and their adversary. Following the Prophet Muhammad's death, the Caliph or head of Islamic State launched a series of futuhat or opportunities initiatives to spread the new religion. Muslim jurists and scholars have perceived and formulated Islamic theories of international relations relying on the historical precedent and the scriptural source of Islam, like the Quran, the Sunnah or tradition of Prophet Muhammad, and on the other hand, the framework of international relations of their period at that time. Although since the second Islamic century, classical Muslim jurists have divided the world into two or three categories like Dar al-Islam or House of Islam, Dar al-Harb or the House of War, and then Dar al-Sulh of House of Peace. The majority of Muslims, however, did not recognize the Dar al-Sulh. In a post-UN world, many scholars are still having a debate and analyzing the meaning and significance of this tripartite division or this classical Islamic paradigm of international relations. Sheikh Muhammad Abu Zahar, a prolific 20th century jurist and scholar, shaped a modern approach to the issue of international relations in Islam in two volumes. The first one is Al-Mutajad al-Insani fil Zil al-Islam, or Human Society in the State of Islam, and the second one, Al-Alahad al-Dawliyah fi al-Islam, or International Relation in Islam. Abu Zahra interpretation of Islam's scriptural source provide a universal humanistic Islamic paradigm of international relation in these two volumes. It examines and evaluates the theoretical foundation and impact of classical and modern Islam international relation paradigm in our globalized world, as well as effort to test the hypothesis of civilization classes against them. Also assess that Muslim non-state actor will be the main force in how Islam is used and misapplied in international relations. The next part will be explained by my friend Abiel.
All right. Talking about classical paradigm of Islamic IRs tripartite division, based on Islamic scripture, Muslim scholars have created a literature on personal purity, criminal law, constitutional law, and international law. Muslims have used this 8th century text to study, construct Islamic law, and regulate international affairs. Theoretical or paradigmatic approach to international relations are likely to be contextual. 8th century Muslim jurists constructed a controversial tripartite universe. Today, Muslim academics almost unanimously believe that tripartite world division is neither founded on the Quran nor the Sunnah. Despair and harmful to the rest of the world, some Western academics and anti-Islamic opponents misread the traditional difference. The 9/11 assault, for example, was justified by Muslim terrorists and radicals using this historical divide. Before debating this traditional distinction, it is important to remember that the Muslim and the Islamic State were founded in Medina in 622 by the Prophet Muhammad SAW in a world marked by enmity until peace treaty were signed. In other words, this division is theoretically classification of the Islamic State global relation. This separation does not authorize a conflict or hostile pattern of encounter according to its legal implication. It's also covered the ancient and modern contribution to Islamic international law. So it isn't a study of modern Muslim or foreign policy, because certainly all Muslim governments, whether fully secularized or secularized like in Turkey, although still following the Sharia law like Saudi Arabia and Yemen, pursuing a school-origin policy. Traditional Muslim law does not govern Islamic international affairs. It is important because in the 8th century, Muslim jurists formulate a classical Islamic conception of foreign relation and most Islamic law. Muslim targeting non-Muslim or Muslim minorities living non-Muslim civilization, regulating their religious habits, have all violated those norms. Classical Muslim define Dar al-Is in three ways. Most Muslim scholars believe Dar al-Ism is where Islam and Islamic law are applied. The manner of Islamic is practiced and its legal system applied varies. Dar al-Kufr or House of Unbelief by extreme scholar is a Muslim country that does not respect Islam law or impose law that are incompatible with Islamic law. Muslim countries now employ secular Western law. Various extremist groups label Egypt Dar al-Kufr for not completely implementing Islamic law like Sharia. Because every Muslim can freely worship, use Islamic banking, and buy halal food, the tolerant group sees the world as Dar al-Ism. A Muslim minority is in many non-Muslim countries enjoy greater religion and political freedom than in their own country. Only a few Muslim countries that only follow Islamic law are regarded as Dar al-Harb by fundamentalist and extremist Muslim organization, which consider Islamic law compliance to be the most significant requirement for identifying an Islamic state. The application of Islamic law in their countries has been focused for various peaceful Islamic organizations and political parties. For the same reason, terrorists has been attacking many Islamic countries. This division determined not by geography nor by rules or population religious group, but by the degree of freedom to implement an administrative Islamic law. According to a tiny group of Muslim intellectuals, if Muslims govern a country, they can live in peace and freedom to follow their faith. People believe that Islam order Muslims to commit war against the rest of the world because of the division. A jihadist is someone who seeks to universalize religion, meaning Islam, and build an imperial worldwide state. For example, like the Vatican. The Caliphate is shown as a Muslim universal empire that must conquer the planet. As an example, the distorted Islamic belief indicate the continuous use of all Islamic theology to promote a conflict of civilization. Dar Islam is any place where Muslim and non-Muslim resident of the Islamic State are safe and free to practice their belief. This emphasizes on the safety and inclusion of non-Muslim and to expose two things. Dar Islam is a Muslim-friendly location. Secondly, any place where there is live the Islamic State people and endangerment is hostile. So according to Abanov, the entire world is now Darism, except for Muslim majority areas. The three attitudes above define Dar al-Harb Dar Arkuf, and Dar Aljo. A place where Muslim cannot live and worship in a place in a peace is a Dar al-Harb. There's two classifications are based on the presence of absence of peace and religion freedom for Muslim. Reality affect Muslim Jewish outlook. This compendia address issues such as Islamic law jurisdiction, religious responsibility in non-Muslim areas, and international trade. The Islamic states link the house of war is more than just a name. A legal, technical, and hermeneutical understanding of classical Muslim jurists attempt to theorize and govern relation with non-Muslim is a oversimplification. Sadly, mainstream media scholarship accept it. According to Kaduri in 1956, Dar Islam was continually at conflict with Dar al-Harb. Islam desired global Muslim domination, and Muslim has legal obligation to achieve it. Sadly, many Muslim feel non-Muslim area, non-Muslim life are not sacrosanct, and their property may be seized by as plunder. It is likewise incorrect to use the term Dar al-Harb or enemy state and enemy religion interchangeably. The 9/11 hijacker protect their atrocities as Ghazwa raids, the Arabic word between or raids. Throughout the Prophet lifetime, to justify attacks on innocent people, terrorists claim that victims were inhabitants or taxpayers of Dar al-Harb, the enemy state. Al-Shif, founder of the Shif Sunni School of Islamic Jurisprudence, the second largest in the Muslim world, created the Dar al-Sul, House of Peace. It's referred to autonomous area that have signed a non-aggression pact with Islamic states. According to Kaduri, Al-Shif, like the other three Sunni Islamic schools, adopt the idea of active jihad against non-Muslim until they become Muslim or fall under the Islamic State dominion. Due to his belief, the war is legitimate against non-Muslim. Asif constructed a hostile foreign relation paradigm towards non-Muslim, which is also accepted by some unbelieved jurists in Saudi Arabia and few Gulf countries. However, its appeal Asif recognized a temporary truce between Dar Islam and Dar al-Sul. A Muslim state need not wage war against a non-Muslim state if it's weaker than them and sign a pact of peace with them lasting no more than 10 years, as declared by the Prophet Muhammad SAW in the Treaty of Al-Udabiyah in 638. In the opinion of certain Sunni academic, an area become part of the faith after it signed a peace contract and paid tribute to Dar al-Sin. So to summarize the classical Islamic legal philosophy, this theory, analysis, and evaluation should take into account of three factors: historical context, goals, and method that is used to create such interpretation. The first, in the 7th century, hostile foreign relations shapes this theory evolution. It arose in response to an environment of hostile toward the Islamic State, but also toward non-Muslim countries. One of the three criteria used to distinguish Dar al-Sin from Dar al-Harb was freedom practice Islam. Muslims must flee to Muslim state if they cannot practice their faith freely. The second one, Muslim jurists developed this rule to control Muslim state activity and individual Muslim behavior according with the Islamic law and the Muslim state best interest. This law was created by Muslim jurists without consultation or agreement from other parties, proving that Islamic law is self-imposed. To glorify Allah, Muslims must follow this belief regardless of their rival or state. As Islamic law really is really non-state actor and Muslim or income is to learn and apply established principle. The third and final one is to develop a pattern of linkage with non-Muslim. Classical Muslim jurists use advanced hermeneutical and juristic method because the Quran contains many chapters addressing Muslim opponents before and after travel to Medina, most Muslim jurists use a problematic notion of abrogation. The Quranic worldview is considered by certain of their interpretation of the scripture. Next, I will be talking about the modern paradigm of Islamic international relation, the universal humanism. You, so can you change the chapter to next one, please? Now, the formation of the United Nations and accusation by the Western scholar that Islam is a violent religion that seeks to convert non-Muslim via jihad force. Muslim scholars to rethink the traditional Islamic philosophy of international relation. In response to Western culture and scientific predominance, scholars have attempted to evaluate Islamic contribution in domains such as international relation, economics, and finance. After the 9/11 attacks, there has been a renewed interest in religion role in international affairs. Traditional Islamic scholars and Muslim academics educate in international relations have reached Islamic international relation. In contrast to their classical predecessor, most current Muslim academia focus on Islamic worldview and asking how does Islam perceive interaction with other nation state and how does it treat a ban of aggressive force. On the major issues in Islamic foreign relation, it's whether peace or conflict is the natural and permanent condition of relation with non-Muslim. The question has three answers. First, most current Muslim thinkers believe that peace is the original and permanent state of relation with the rest of the world, except as an intricate of self-defense. In this way, the classical Islamic philosophy of international relation is outmoded, and most laws created from it are invalid. They were not motivated by doctrinal requirement of Islam, but the 7th and 8th century global condition defined by antagonism in international interaction. As a result, most ancient publications of the issue concentrate of the Islamic just in below regulation on the conduct of war and ignore the Islamic jus ad bellum, justification for going to war. The second solution is based on the ancient Muslim jurist international relation paradigm. Radical Muslims claim that war is the origin and permanent state of relation with the rest of humanity, and non-Muslim must be fought until they accept Islam or submit to its rule, putting them on the same level as the kafir, who originally persecute Muslim and stiff its growth. So some traditional Muslim jurist doctrine on force are selectively employed to address terrorism against innocent non-Muslim population. To the non-Muslim world, the third answer from current Muslim thinker is the Dewa, or the preaching of faith in Islam, should always be purposeful of Islamic relation. Thus, non-Muslim attitude toward Islamic preacher or missionary decided whether they are at peace or at war. It is virtually universal agreed that war is acceptable in Islam under the three following cases. The first one is encouraging and encroaching on Islamic lands. The second one is the persecuting of Muslim, and the third one is the preventing of Islam. Notably, Ibn Tamiyah stated that killing is not the purpose of Islam, but rather the way of safeguard the faith and those who teach it from assault. If preacher or slain or stopped by preaching, from preaching, Rashid believed that Muslims should go to battle and to safeguard the preaching mission. Thus, currently Islamic theorists and classical Islamic theorists focus on non-Muslim attitude to Islam. Apart from the extreme and terrorist organization, classical and current Islamic international relations are quiet. In the other words, the two ideas do not provide a constructive Islamic worldwide view that may help improve the world or even theoretical framework to humanist international relation as seen. However, traditional Muslim jurists were able to humanize both foreign and local confrontation. The next one, I think, will be explained by my friend Arin.
Okay, I'm going to explain about Abu Zahra's universal humanism. Abu Zahra was well known for his intellectual framework, which helped him become one of the most prominent intellectual reformers in contemporary Islamic philosophy. His work is to define the current Islamic perspective to international relations theory. As the first one to create a universal humanistic paradigm of international relations based on Islam, Abu Zahra discovered that permanent relations with non-Muslim are peace, not war or conflict. Abu Zahra employs Islamic theology and his Tawhid teaching to demonstrate mankind's togetherness. The last revelation, the Quran, is used by Islam to bring humanity together. This argument of his is grounded on his interpretation of Islamic holy text sources, not on past Islamic countries' historical traditions. The global humanistic Islamic paradigm of international relations is governed by 10 key principles, all of which are rooted on Islamic law. First is human dignity. Except before God, all human beings have the same worth regardless of their backgrounds. All mankind are Allah's subjects, and those who are best to his people are the ones he loves the most. And no one has supremacy over another except on the basis of sincerity and rightness acts. The second one is all humans form one nation. Despite their distinctions, people are descended from a single parent who gives birth to a single nation, because a person's heritage does not justify animosity. Islam prohibits the assertion of superiority over a group of people. The third one is human cooperation. As what the prophets had did, Allah requires people to work together to accomplish good and prevent injustice and hostility. The fourth one is forbearance. Passion is seen in the Quran and the prophets dealing with non-Muslim. Passion is seen in the Quran and prophets dealing in several situations, whether in a condition of war or after triumph. The presence of this forbearance is immensely helpful. Fifth one is freedom. Non-Muslims have the freedom to freely follow their faith in Islamic countries since the Quran text bans religious compulsion. In Islam, all Muslims and non-Muslims have the right of self according to Abu Zahra. Six is virtue. As it is written in the Quran, whereas defensive war is acceptable, Muslims are not allowed to disobey Islamic combat rules. A dedication to goodness, especially during times of conflict, is one of the Islam's essential pillars in human interactions. Seven is justice. Whether in peace or conflict, human connections must be built on the concept of fairness. Abu Zahra returns to the issue of justice in times of war, emphasizing that war must be authorized and conducted in accordance with Islamic norms governing the use of violence. Eight is reciprocity. Prophet Muhammad once told us to treat others as we would like to be treated. In this way, injustice is prevented by using the concepts of tolerance, virtue, and reciprocity in accordance with, rather than in opposition to the principles of justice. Nine is pacta servanda. Honoring treaties is one approach to keep the peace, and Muslims have a religious responsibility to do so, according to the Quran. The last one is friendship and preventing tyranny. Even in times of conflict, the links of brotherhood of all human beings necessitate the cultivation of good contacts with others. Acts of aggression are only permitted in Islam against enemies who are at battle. However, even with enemy sides, offering humanitarian aid and good connection is acceptable in Islam. Classic Muslim jurists, on the other hand, forbade giving some goods to the enemy during a state of war, such as iron, weapons, or slaves that may be used for battles, for fear or strengthening the adversary. The 10 principles listed, which reinforce ideas like as brotherhood, dignity, freedom or belief, and the right of self-determination, among others, provide a beneficial theoretical addition to international relations theory. Abu Zahra proposed these 10 principles as the norms that govern the paradigm of Islamic international relations in both peace and war. As this global humanistic approach is profoundly established in Quranic verses, this is a beneficial theoretical addition to the subject. These 10 principles can also be used to examine the behavior of Muslim nations and non-Muslim state actors, particularly if these Muslim countries choose Islam as their official religion in their constitutions or if non-state players claim to be Muslim. The next is conclusion that will be explained by Arif.
Okay, for the conclusion, both the classical and modern Islamic writing, as previously said, are the result of Muslim scholar understanding on the Islamic scripture, because those writings are attributed to Islam, but Muslim and non-Muslim generally believe that they provide unchanging doctrinal ordinances regarding relation with the rest of the world. And as a result, the meaning of this writing is completely ignored. It is important to know that deciding which option best represent the true spirit of Islam throughout the 14th century of Islamic history is a highly subjective matter. But Muslim and non-Muslim must understand which is the true Islamic paradigm that Muslim must adopt, at least in theory and especially in our globalized world. Whether it is the classical position of perpetual war adopted by al-Shafi'i against non-Muslim until they accept Islam or fall under its rule, or whether it is Abu Zara modern universal humanism perspective. If one examines the class of civilization theory assumption that the central focus of conflict for the foreseeable future is between the US and Islamic State, it is necessary to determine which approach will be used to counter this argument, classical or modern. The classical position of al-Shafi advocates perpetual conflict with the entire non-Muslim world. On the other hand, Abu Zara writes about humanity as a family bound together by the bond of fraternity and justice, which he believes makes civilization conflict in Islam unlikely to happen. Muslims that have signed the United Nations Charter and agree that aggressive use of force is prohibited. Muslims state that take a secular approach to international relations as well. Non-state actors play the majority of the current role of Islamic in international relations. Terrorist acts have been committed by a slew of violent radical Muslim groups, both inside and outside the Muslim world. To classical Muslim scholar, the current phenomena of terrorism prepared by Muslims is unthinkable not only because the use of coercion in non-Muslim authority must be carried under legitimate governance, but also because they must meet the risk of the condition of both Islamic jus ad bellum and Islamic jus in bello. To sum it up, non-state actors will continue to justify their terrorist act in Islamic terms, and thus the solution to their misuse of the faith to fix the Dar al-Islam lies on the inside. It is critical to establish genuine democracy in the Muslim world and to promote the peaceful message of Islam in the flawed educational system found in the majority of Muslim countries. Since non-state actors will continue to use Islam, the remedy to itself misunderstanding of Islam is Islam itself. Abu Zara Universal Humanism Paradigm is a significant contribution to the study of international relation theories in general and to Muslim in particular, if they are use Islam in internal relation. And that's all from our presentation. Thanks for paying attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.